Welcome to Soul-Led Creative Women, the podcast for heart-centered creative women who are ready to reclaim their spark and live with deeper meaning, authenticity, and soul. I'm your host, Sam Horton. Together we'll explore the spiritual, personal, and creative journeys that help us reconnect with ourselves, trust our inner wisdom, and create a life that feels more aligned with who we truly are. Now let's dive into today's episode. So today I have Niki Borger with me. Niki is an international writer, actor, and producer. She has turned her life experiences with grief and hardship into a set of one-act plays that explore those liminal spaces between life and death and expand the frameworks we use to look at them. She says soul-centered creativity is at the heart of everything she does. So welcome, Niki.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Sam. It's a pleasure.
So let's just start with your story, Niki. Tell us about your creative journey and how you've ended up here.
Well, I think creativity has always been a part of my life,
Mhm.
from when I was very, very little. But professionally, I always kind of like done things like dance and then musical theater. And then I decided to go to Hollywood in 2018, actually. And that is where the rough part of my story kind of started. So I came here, coming to the US is already like a big feat, especially if you're not a native speaker and you don't have any connections here, right? So that was quite the big deal. And I came here as an actor. I was transitioning from musical theater to film, and I got really frustrated with people making me act in their short films, but then not submitting to festivals. So this work would not go anywhere. Like it was all
Right.
for nothing. And that was when I started writing, actually, around that time, and did a couple of short films that I wrote and produced just before the pandemic. And then I edited them and put them in the festival run during the pandemic, which was a great experience because all the award ceremonies and everything was now virtual. So I could actually attend,
Right.
even though it was crazy hours of the day sometimes. That was kind of cool. And yeah, so that is the biggest part of my creative journey, so to say. Came here in 2018 and figured I don't like the stories. I don't like how things are being done. Started my own productions, and then life went quite a bit south. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm.
So you're really following your creative dreams, that LA transition would have been, yeah, huge, as you said. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, and it is huge. It's unheard of. I don't know another person from Germany who's done anything like it. I'm sure
Mm.
there are some,
Yeah.
but usually the artists that come from non-English speaking countries, they are established already. They're famous models, or
Hmm.
they have parents that were in the industry, or they have family here or something. And I didn't
Mm.
have anything. I just
Mm.
came here with myself in a suitcase.
So what inspired you to make that move then? Or like, what was it within you that really called you to do that?
I think there were two things. I was not too happy in Germany because I don't like how repressive the culture is. And I know it's very open minded on the outside,
Mhm.
but when you grow up German, it's quite different.
Mhm.
And the other thing was that storytelling had always been such an empowering and healing tool for me. I love books and movies growing up. I feel like one of the biggest blessings in my life is being the generation that grew up with the Harry Potter books, because that was such a ride to have these books come out and then go through that journey, right? So I always, always loved that. And I always loved movies. And at some point, I thought, what if I try to do the thing that I dreamed of doing when I was 6 years old?
Mm. Mm.
Well, that's what
So
happened.
special. So good. Love it.
Maybe.
So you said, as I mentioned, that soul-centered creativity is at the heart of everything you do. So would you say that creativity is like a way of life for you? Do you believe that this is like how we expand into who we came here to be?
Absolutely, and I could not have worded that any better than
Okay.
you already did. It is, I think growth is the most natural state of human being. Like,
Mhm.
and growth comes in a large extent from creativity,
Mm.
right? And finding that inspiration, those new solutions, those new ways that haven't been there before.
Mm. Mm. So powerful, isn't it? So you sort of started to touch on it, but after going through like a really hard period in your life, as you described, losing all of your parents and grandparents in really tragic ways over a 7.5-year period, So that type of experience has like a real like before and after type effect, I'm assuming. So can you describe that sort of before and after in terms of your creative identity or your human identity?
Oh, yeah. Well, so I came here in September 2018.
Hmm.
In May 2019, my stepdad got really sick and they couldn't figure out what it was. And a couple months later, he survived an emergency surgery for pancreatic cancer, barely. And a couple of weeks after that, my mom died in a car crash.
Wow.
And we never found out why. It was most likely a heart attack or a stroke. I believe it was a heart attack. I believe it was a broken heart because she thought she was about to lose her partner.
Right.
And she was really stressed out about it too. And so she died suddenly. And, by the time I came back from that, I obviously went to Germany, had to take care of things.
Hmm.
And by the time I was back in the US, it was basically almost the pandemic already. So everything
Okay.
had shut down and nothing happening anymore. And everyone being at home forced to deal with everything they have going on.
Hmm.
Right. And it was around that time when I started writing more about my own experiences because I was just trying really hard to figure out her story and our story. Because
Hmm.
as her daughter, I'm very aware of all the good things, but also the tricky things that I've copied from her. So I was trying to figure out if I were to turn what happened there in that constellation with her, my stepdad, and me into a movie, what would that movie be? Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
what would be the arc? What would be the perspective? What is the story that I want to stay with or that I would want to share with the world, right? That
Hmm.
brings peace and not detriment to some extent. It went on from there. More things happened. Granddad's died. Then my stepdad's cancer came back. He passed away and nursed him through that, which was horrible. My mother-in-law's cancer came back, nursed her. She passed away as well. And then my dad got really, really sick, and I nursed him for the last 3.5 years until he passed away earlier this year.
Wow.
So for that entire time frame that I've basically been in the US
Hmm.
and attempting this already big feat of making it happen,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
There was always part of me bound to other people in life or
Hmm.
death situations,
Hmm.
right? And that is
Almost
horrible.
pulling you backwards or pulling you back into what you've left behind, you
Like,
know?
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
entire time. And to such an intensity as well.
Mm,
Like,
mm.
my dad he was an alcoholic, so he had a liver cirrhosis. And
Okay.
that went on for 3.5 years that he was in and out of the hospital on a
Mhm.
weekly basis, nearly dying every month or so.
Mm.
And just the intensity was crazy, right? So in regards to my creative identity, um, I did have vision and purpose and meaning before I came here,
Yeah.
but it's just gotten a gazillion times more
Okay.
because of the experiences that I've had in the meantime. I have no tolerance for BS anymore,
Yeah.
um,
Okay. Okay.
and little tolerance for stories that I believe spread fear over love. That's what it all comes down to, right?
Mm. Has it
Yeah,
helped you to own your story more, your truth more, I should say? Your, the truth of who you really are and what you want your life to be. Has it helped you to own that more, do you think?
absolutely. Yeah,
Mm.
for sure.
Mm.
Because when you go through that last phase with a person, it puts everything else in perspective. You get so clear on what matters and
Yeah.
what doesn't. And your tolerance for BS really disappears, right? Because you can see through it so
Mm.
quickly and so
Mm.
easily.
Mm.
And so I don't have any interest in pretending or making others comfortable for the sake of feeding their own fears.
Sure.
So yeah, so that has certainly changed a lot. But also, that uniqueness that comes from such an experience is what makes the creative art really authentic, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you create from there is
Yeah.
something that is real and hasn't been there before in that way.
Yeah. And and if does it feel more important to actually share that, do you think? Like, whereas before it was kind of like, I'm sharing it because I feel called to, but I don't really know why. And now you've got this kind of importance, this drive, this kind of meaning that you're wanting to express.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much purpose in it,
Yeah, purpose, that's a good
innately.
word. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
not
beautiful. Yeah.
not in a way that you have to force it, but there's
No.
innate purpose in what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I love that. So why do you believe that creative expression is so powerful in transforming like our challenges into something really beautiful?
The beliefs that you hold will always shape how you perceive your reality and the reality that you create. So I'm going to say that again. The beliefs that you hold will always shape how you perceive your reality and the future that you create. So if you have experienced trauma of any kind and you hold on to the belief, the easiest, simplest one is I am the victim in this, right? This has happened to me. Now you adopt this belief and it starts shaping your future. And that is the pattern that needs to be disrupted. And the easiest way to do that is through creativity, I think,
Yeah.
or meditation. But
Yeah.
creativity is the aspect of putting that into reality.
Yeah, and
You
almost
can
releasing it, right? Because when you're expressing it, it can't stay the same. You're transforming it because you're releasing it and expressing. Yeah,
exactly. You're admitting that it's real for a start,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Anything
yeah.
that you speak into, like that is real in that moment, even just sharing it with another person gets
Hmm.
that new level of existing. And then it starts becoming something else and it starts transmuting and transforming.
Yeah,
And that's the way how you can move through it, right? And just
yeah.
creativity is an amazing tool for that.
And then once you start that process, then new ideas come and new inspiration and more creativity, right? So it's like a never-ending kind of pathway.
Yeah. And you start rewriting that story,
Yeah,
right? You gain a
yeah,
broader perspective. You're no longer just the victim in this. You start becoming more
yeah.
in that story. And I'm not going to say that everything will make sense at some point, but
Mm.
you will find little pieces that make more sense than they did before. And that's
Yeah,
very healing.
yeah. But even if, I mean, you can't change, what is, right? You can't actually change it. But what you can do is you can, use that to your advantage, and transform it into something, that's future orientated, a new way of being, a new identity, a new way of expressing yourself. And that is healing, right?
For sure. And that's the thing with storytelling, right? You can take the same story and tell it in a million different ways.
Mm.
And depending on the way you tell it, it will enhance and move forward the thoughts and beliefs that you hold about it, right?
Yeah.
So it's very, very powerful to make smart choices here for yourself and to find the story that both feels true, but also a beneficial truth to
Mm.
move towards in the future.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So almost letting the creative process hold the trauma or hold the energy around, what is, but then also allowing it to be really uplifting and inspiring and, yeah, propel you forward. That's beautiful. Love it.
Thank
So,
you.
so would you say that honoring your creativity in this way has been your biggest healer?
I would say actually meditation has been my biggest healer, but
Okay.
so what I do is I do energy work, which
Hmm.
is basically you're perceiving the energy that you're holding, usually
Yeah.
of a full construct, which is a belief, a feeling, and an action, a behavioral pattern that is
Yeah.
linked together, right? So the way I work is I perceive that energy within me, I understand what it is, and then I transmute it, let it go, and allow something better to come up.
Yeah.
That is my meditative process that I do. Every time I do it, during the process or right after, I get a bunch of new creative ideas about all sorts of things, whether
Mm.
it's my art, my work, my life, what my apartment looks, what I make for dinner, anything. And
Yeah.
it's always an idea that feels completely new that I couldn't have had in the state that I was in before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So through
That's really
meditation,
powerful.
you open up the floodgates for creativity and inspiration to flow. And that is an amazing process.
Yeah, you tap into the well. Yeah. It's really interesting because, I mean, meditation, is quite a loaded word, but actually what it is it's finding a way to connect with your truth, right? And to tap into that well of inspiration and well of ideas. And maybe that's not meditation for everyone. Maybe it's something else, but ultimately it's about connecting to that deep truth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you need that to access the creative flow. You need that to access inspiration. You need that to access the creative process in a way that's healing and transformative. Would you agree with that?
I could not agree more with that. Like that is exactly it.
Yeah.
It ultimately it comes down to coming back to who you are, right?
Yeah.
At bottom line is it brings you back to who you really are, your essence, your core, whatever you want to call that, right? And there's so many ways to go about it. You can go
Yeah.
running, you can meditate, you can do breath work, you can tap, you can play with your kids. There's a gazillion ways to get there, right?
Yeah.
But you have to get there and
Yeah.
or like allow yourself to move towards that and not just spend time with staying diverted and doing other things and
Yeah.
avoiding that truth.
Yeah.
In the truth lies the key to that well, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. So good. So, as a creative person that really leans into expression and sharing creativity, because, as an actor, like it's pretty bold in terms of what you have to give and share. So, can you share with us both your internal creative process that no one sees, and then your experience with sharing that in a really expressive and vulnerable way? Because there's kind of both happening with acting, whereas with other creative outlets, you don't necessarily always need to be sharing it. Whereas with acting, you do, right?
With
Does that
acting,
make
you do in
sense?
that
Yeah.
moment. Yeah, oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And to someone like me, that is the beauty of the experience, right? That
Yeah.
you prepare, you do your work. And acting is a craft after all,
Yeah.
right? Like there's a lot of craft to it. So my process to that is I prepare really, really well. And I do a lot of character work behind the scenes on that.
Mhm.
So when I get to be in the moment, I know I'm trained enough. I know my character well enough. I'm prepared enough to just let it flow and allow what wants to happen to actually happen. And that is the coolest experience on this planet. There's
Mm.
nothing that's more fun.
So it's almost like your internal creative process is the practicing, right? You're practicing being the character, but you're also practicing things like courage and, getting up on the stage and, being in that energy. And
Yeah,
then I
you can't
guess
have a lot of ego, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah,
Sorry, I
yeah. Yeah,
interrupted.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But then when you're getting on the stage, that's kind of like when you start, you're fine tuning the canvas, so to speak, like you're really putting it out there and making those bold marks. So yeah, that's really powerful. I love that.
Yeah, well, as actors, our bodies are our instruments, so to say, right?
Yeah.
So we
Yeah, yeah.
gotta stay healthy, we gotta stay fit. If you do musical theater, you have to be really well trained, right?
Mm.
For acting, you have to know your character, where they're
Mm.
coming from,
Mhm.
what they've been through, how they feel about things, what they think, right? Like
Mm.
for all this work, there's exercises to do that, which I do through living as the character for little bits and pieces of time. And when you do all of that, you've kind of like defined your picture, so to say,
Mhm.
where you can which you can operate in. And then every time you do it, you're gonna land somewhere a little bit different, but that is what's gonna keep it real, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you have created the framework, you know you'll be safe, you know it'll work, right? And
Mm.
you can allow yourself the liberty to let it be what it wants to be in that moment. And that is such a beautiful experience.
Yeah, that word safe is really important, right? So that internal
Mhm.
creative process is about building safety to then
Mhm.
go and vulnerably express it and share it on stage. So yeah,
Yeah.
so cool. So do you believe then that creative flow helps us to connect to something bigger, connection to spirit, the divine, God, whatever your beliefs are?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Big Magic. I'm sure you know the book, right?
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Huge fan of that. I do believe it connects us to something bigger, and I do believe these ideas have kind of an identity of their own, and they're just looking for the right vessel to come through. And for me, it's an honor to provide that vessel, right? It's such a I feel so blessed for every idea that comes to me and believes that I could be the right vessel for this to come through. I mean, what an honor, because the ideas that come to me, I genuinely believe that they're great, right? And they're
Yeah.
things that I love and care about and that I would love to see in this world. And I'm so
Yeah.
excited. And then to know that I'm the one who gets to have this idea, which means the idea wants to come through me, like it wants to become reality
Mm.
through me. How cool is that?
Yeah.
I mean, what a blessing.
So cool. So, so good. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing as well, right? I don't remember if that book specifically touches on this, but sometimes it's kind of like, well, which one do I choose? You know, like there's so many
Yeah.
floating around there
Yeah.
waiting for you to catch them. Yeah.
So many, so many. Yeah. And that's where you have to be, real life skilled to get you the help and diversify the work a little bit
Yeah.
so you actually can be the best vessel. That's where
Yeah.
strategy comes in to some
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
extent.
Yeah. Being choosy about what you say yes to. Absolutely.
Hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. So, for all the women who are curious about using creativity to transform grief and loss or challenge and turn it into something really healing and beautiful, what powerful message or question would you like to leave them with today?
Well, I would love, if that's okay, I would love to elaborate on that process a little bit more, if that's
Mm,
okay with you.
mm,
Because I know we've touched on this, that storytelling, you can have the same story and you can tell it a million different ways. And I do think that is really the key here. That's really the key to finding strength in the horrible things that may have
mhm,
happened, right? And even finding blessing in the horrible things that have happened. So I would like to share, if that's okay, I would like to share a very personal piece about me and
yes.
my mom, right? So my mom and I, we were as close as mother and daughter can be. Really, she was my everything. I would get out of bed in the morning and do what I had to do because I wanted to make her proud. And it was still like that at age 31 when she passed away.
Mhm, mhm,
We were, yeah, we were as thick as two people can be. So when she suddenly passed away, it was the most horrible thing that could have happened in my world. And I felt really victimized about it. And I started from that, I started exploring of what all led to her passing, right?
mhm, mhm.
And now you could take a physical approach and say her car crashed, right? She must have she hit a truck head on
Okay.
a country road. Speed difference was 140 miles per hour. Nothing anybody could have done. The truck couldn't have gone anywhere. It was completely impossible. Um, I could tell the physical story of she was tired and maybe overworked and fell
Mhm,
asleep or had
mhm.
a heart attack or a stroke, right? Um, but that is not a story that will allow me to grow a whole
Yeah.
lot, right? Especially not if I turn it into a story of she left me alone,
Mm,
or she gave up on life, or she was not strong enough but got her heart broken over this situation with my stepdad. None of this is beneficial from my experience. And I do feel like I have her blessing to say that. The fact that she passed away allowed me as a woman to recalibrate my relationship with my femininity in
mhm,
my relationship with men. So I got plenty of time and opportunity to see what does not work. That the narcissistic relationship she was in with my stepfather is nothing that I want for my future. That the level of self sacrifice that she practiced, which I'm so grateful for as her child, is not sustainable and should not be
mhm.
expected of women to begin with. And a lot of other these beliefs. So now when I look at it from that perspective, now I'm starting to write a story that inspires growth
Mhm.
because because she passed away in this way, I have the liberty and the trigger to grow and reassess what I want to create in my future and what I want to pass on in the future. And that is a much more powerful story to tell, because now out of this horrible experience comes growth and comes more love towards myself with more boundaries, right? And healthier boundaries for relationships. And so I'm I'm allowing this horrible thing to create something that is of value and beautiful in the long-term run. And that is the power that you have in storytelling more than anything else. And you don't have to write a story. You can paint a painting and it tells a story, right? But the storytelling aspect stays the same. You got to find the story that empowers you and allows you to grow, rather than the story that keeps you where you're at. And that story exists in every situation. So to come back to your original question, for anybody who wants to do this and wants to get started, what my advice, right? That's what you ask, what I would tell them. Here's what I would tell you. I genuinely believe that life is good. And I understand that horrible, horrible things can happen, because I went through so much more hardship than I thought I ever would have in my entire life. But I still believe that life is good. So you got to find that thread. You got to find that thread, that golden thread in the darkness, the silver lining, and follow that to something that creates good out of that. And that will be the most beneficial thread you can follow for your art. The thing that you're kind of sensing, most likely scared to name, let alone name to anybody else, or express, that is the one that you want to follow, because that is the one that will bring you so many blessings and peace of mind and ultimately even joy. That's what I believe. And I genuinely believe that everybody has a potential to do so. So I really hope you find, you're listening, I hope you find that courage within you to follow that. I'm definitely rooting for you.
Yeah, so good. And that is the before and after, right? It's before the challenge and after the challenge. That's so good. So good. So how can people get to know you better, Niki, and get a real feel for the creative work that you're doing?
That is a great question, because I only said to so many things, right? It's not easy to connect to me. The easiest way is through Instagram, Niki J. Borger. And you can follow my work there, everything I'm doing. I'm just starting a new TV show, which will be a comedy about being you. But if you want to see like what I've done, my book, it's called In Between, a gender-neutral one-act plays between life and death. That you can get at any major bookstore throughout the world.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming and chatting with me today, Niki. Loved chatting to you. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. That was amazing questions. And I really appreciate the space you're providing here and the conversations to have that. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Sam here. Thanks for listening to the end. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to invite you to watch my Soulful Creativity video series. Inside, I guide you to build a soulful relationship with your creativity without sacrificing skills, beauty, or impact in your art. I share the 3 steps to awaken your creative power, release what's holding you back, and safely practice creative expansion so that you can welcome in more abundance and finally come alive with soulful creativity. You can get started today at samhorton.co/SCVS. Until next time, keep listening to the creative whispers within. They may be guiding you somewhere more beautiful than you can yet imagine. Take care.